This is a disaster. Nothing ever goes right for me. The end is near. You ever catch yourself saying that? Or do you hear people around you saying it? What if I told you that these everyday phrases are sabotaging your mindset? This might seem harmless, even funny sometimes. But catastrophe language can turn molehills into mountains and make small setbacks feel like total defeat. Are you ready to take a hard look at your words and discover how they're shaping your life, for better or worse? By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to transform your language, shift your mindset, and break free from the habit of catastrophic thinking. The end is nowhere near. Hey, my name is Greg from Renew. I'm a master coach helping people, teams, and organizations to know themselves, design their future self, and become their future selves. Renew and I are here to help you live a life where you have control. Words have power. They're not just sounds or symbols. They are tools we use to understand the world and, more importantly, to understand ourselves. But sometimes the words we choose are a little too extreme. Think about the last time something didn't go your way. Did you say, "This is terrible," or maybe "everything is ruined"? It might feel like you're venting, but what if those words are actually magnifying your frustration and stress? This type of language is what we call catastrophizing. It's like taking a tiny spark and throwing gasoline on it until we have a raking fire. By using extreme words, we take situations that are often minor and turn them into catastrophes. Your brain is listening. When you say, "This is nightmare," your brain doesn't analyze and go, "Oh, they're just exaggerating." No. Your brain responds like there really is a nightmare happening. It sets off a chain reaction, a stress hormones like cortisol spike, your muscles tense up, and you start to feel like the world really is out to get you. All because of a few words. Imagine words are like seeds. Every time you speak, you're planting something in the garden of your mind. But if you plant flowers, more balanced, accurate language, they have the power to shape a healthier mindset. Your brain's neuroplasticity can be your friend or your enemy, depending on the words you use. Let's try a little exercise. Think back to a recent moment when you felt stressed or frustrated. What words did you use to describe it? Were they realistic or were they a bit catastrophic? Here's the first step: becoming aware. From today, start paying attention to your language. Are you describing things as they are, or are you amplifying them into a crisis? Our language, especially the language we use about ourselves and our lives, can either empower us or hold us back. So here is your challenge for the day. Start noticing when you catastrophize. Ask yourself, am I making these worse with my words? Because once you recognize the patterns, you can start to change them. Before we move on, you might be interested in other limited language videos from my Power of Words playlist right here. None of us set out to catastrophize intentionally, right? But when life throws us a curveball, somehow "this is challenging" turns into "this is impossible" in seconds. So there's actually a reason behind this tendency, and it starts with our psychology. Catastrophic language or catastrophic thinking usually comes down to two things: fear and control. When we face something unfamiliar or threatening, even mildly, our brains are wired to go on high alert. Think of it like a fire alarm system that goes off even if you just burn your toast. Your mind doesn't want to take any chances. It's built to protect you from danger, real or imagined. So when we say "this is a disaster," it's often because our brain is trying to convince us, pay attention, this is important. Even if it's not life or death, our brain wants us to be ready. That's where the amygdala comes in. That little almond-shaped part of our brain that acts like a personal alarm system. When we use words like terrible, nightmare, or disaster, it triggers the amygdala to send out signals that something is wrong. The amygdala doesn't know if you're actually in danger or just being dramatic. It just reacts. It releases cortisol, our stress hormone, and that puts your body and mind into a state of high alert, preparing for a fight or flight response. And guess what? This reaction was super useful when we had to escape saber-toothed tigers, but today it just creates unnecessary stress over things like running late or getting a low grade on a project. So our mind exaggerates the situation, and that exaggeration becomes a habit. Another reason we catastrophize is because of a need for control. When we can't predict an outcome, our brains love to go straight to the worst-case scenario. Why? Because that makes us feel like we are more prepared for it, even if it's a total exaggeration. It's a funny twist. Catastrophizing is actually your brain trying to help you handle unpredictability by over-preparing you emotionally. Think of it this way. If your mind convinces you that something is terrible, then any result that's better than terrible feels like a relief. But here is the thing, that's a trap. Because while you're busy expecting the worst, you're teaching your mind to focus on negativity, and over time, that becomes a habit. This happens to me fairly frequently when I do something new. I always imagine that it is going to be badly received, and that I have done a terrible job, which amplifies a small stress into a much bigger one. And guess what? It is simply never true. So I have to remind myself every time I work deeply on something, I get good results. That is the truth. You want to dive deeper into why our brains jump to worst-case scenario? Then check out my video on cognitive biases and learn how to influence your thoughts every day. You like this video so far? Then you know what to do. Also subscribe and put on the notifications if you want to receive content like this every week. And if you want to learn a lot more about the power of our words, then check out in the video description other YouTube channels and videos. Here is a reality. Breaking the habit of catastrophic language isn't just about choosing new words. It's about creating a new mindset, one that doesn't jump to worst-case scenarios, but instead builds resilience and clarity. Think of it as training your mind to see things as they are, not as your fear or stress makes them out to be. First up, the language swap. That is exactly what it sounds like, taking an extreme or negative phrase and swapping it for a more balanced, accurate one. So instead of saying, "This is terrible," you can say, "This is a challenging moment, but I will make it." Or instead of, "I'm stupid," try, "I'm still learning and I improve with practice." All you need are small shifts. They send your brain a new message that it's okay to struggle and that you have the ability to overcome it. Let's make this personal. Think about something that's been frustrating you lately. Got it? Now mentally or even out loud, try the language swap. Change the phrasing from catastrophic to balanced. Notice the difference? You might feel just a little less stressed and a bit more in control. Next up, we have the reality check. Sometimes our words run away with us, right? It's so easy to slip into hyperbole without realizing it. The reality check is about catching yourself in the act. When you notice yourself using words like disaster or never, stop and ask, is that really true? Are things really that bad? Or am I exaggerating? This has become a reflex for me for all types of limiting language. And I also do it for my partner. And as you can guess, she loves it when I do that. Think of a recent time you use words like, "This is terrible," or "This will never work." Take a breath and ask yourself, is it really terrible or is it just difficult? This little moment of self-check can keep you grounded in reality rather than spiraling into exaggeration. Let's talk about the gratitude flip. This is a powerful mindset shift where you acknowledge the difficulty of a situation, but also recognize something to be grateful for in it. Let's say you're stressed about a deadline. Instead of spiraling into catastrophic language, you could think, "This deadline is stressful, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to showcase my skills." By pairing the stress with gratitude, you create a more balanced internal dialogue. It's like grounding yourself in reality while choosing to see something positive. This approach not only reduces stress, but also strengthens your resilience over time. I'm going to guide you through 3 common types of scenarios where we often default to catastrophic language: small setbacks, social challenges, and future uncertainties. The first one is small setbacks. This could be something as simple as spilling your coffee in the morning, missing your train, or getting a last-minute change to a project you're working on. Next time something minor goes wrong, try saying, "This is inconvenient, but it's not the end of the world." Or, "This isn't what I planned, but I can handle it." Notice how these statements feel less like an emergency and more like a small detour. You're acknowledging the frustration, but you're not blowing it out of proportion. Think of a small setback you faced recently. How could you rephrase your reaction to it in a way that's calm and grounded? Give it a go right now. Let's move on to social challenges. This could be anything from having a difficult conversation with a friend, feeling misunderstood, or worrying about what others think about you. Often we'll say things like, "They probably hate me," or "I'm so bad at this." Try shifting those statements. Replace "they probably hate me" with "I'm not sure how they feel, but I did my best to communicate." Or instead of "I'm terrible at this," try saying "I'm still learning how to handle these situations." Think of a recent social challenge and try reframing your reaction to it. How does it feel to let go of those assumptions and give yourself a bit of compassion? Finally, let's look at future uncertainties. We all worry about the future from time to time. Thoughts like, what if I fail? Or this is going to be a disaster. They come to mind easily when we're facing something unknown. Instead of letting fear dictate your words, try a reframe that focuses on possibilities rather than worst-case scenarios. For example, instead of what if I fail, try saying this is new, but I'll learn as I go. Or instead of this is going to be a disaster, shift it to this could be challenging, but I'm prepared to handle it. Think of a situation you're anxious about. Now reframe it in a way that leaves room for both challenges and growth. How does that shift in language makes you feel about the future? Worst-case scenarios are also mixed up with generalizing them to our entire life. If you want to learn more about generalization as a limiting language, then check this out. The beautiful thing about language is that every word is a choice. And each choice you make with your words is like planting seeds for the future. You're either growing peace, resilience, and self-compassion, or you're fueling stress and worry. So today, choose one phrase, one shift, one small action that will move you closer to the mindset you want. These changes won't happen overnight. But every time you notice yourself leaning into catastrophic language and take a moment to shift, you're building a foundation for a healthier, more resilient mindset. And each small shift will add up. Trust the process. This quote from Hafiz, a Persian poet, perfectly summarizes the power of words. The words you speak become the house you live in. If you want to complement your mastery of powerful language, check out my video about how to get rid of impossible tentative language that you can find right here.